Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope wherever you are on this amazing planet of ours, you've had a sensational week, as lots of people have, and some people have had not so great week, but we're all alive. That's the main thing. We're all still alive. We're still breathing. We've still got opportunities. We've still got time for things to sort of manifest in the way that we want them to. And I think that's the thing. I think sometimes as human beings, we get a little bit out of kilter. We expect everything to happen with the snap of our fingers. We think of something, we want it, and we want it now. We don't want to sort of work for it. We don't want to plan for it. We don't want to wait for it to happen. When we were children, we had to wait for things like, birthdays, Christmases, special occasions. You didn't just have everything at your fingertips. You waited until you got that special something, or you worked hard and, you had a part-time job, whether it was a paper run or hanging out someone's washing, whatever it was, but you saved up the money until you could get that special something. Today, it's all sort of so easy in a sense that I don't know that there's the same excitement anymore about and a sense of achievement of being able to achieve what we need to achieve. So this week's Simply Tarot card of the week is the Wish card. It's the Seven of Swords. It's the card of plans, hope, and your wish card. It is the highest of the minor arcana cards. Now, when this card comes out in a reading, it doesn't necessarily mean all your wishes are going to be granted like a fairy godmother coming along. It just means that you have more opportunity there to bring the things that you want to fruition. So it's sort of like make your plans, hope on the stars, but make sure that you get up off the couch and put the effort in too to making your wish a reality. It's one of those ambiguous cards because when I used to do a lot of teaching of tarot, and I did that for over 40 years, people would sort of say to me, oh, this card's got the rainbow flag in the background. Maybe that's what it means. It's connected to the gay society. Well, let me assure you, these cards were well and truly designed well over 100 years ago. I think before we even put a label on people's sexual preferences. So if that's what you want to believe and that's how you want to see the card, that's your choice. To me, it will always be the card of plans, hopes, and wishes. And it's something that, you can start to make some wishes. You can start to put your intentions down or put them on your fridge or whatever it is, your vision board, and start to bring your wishes to reality. But we have to put in the effort as well. They don't just happen because we've thought about it. We do have to be responsible for that as well. So this week the sun has moved into Virgo, so happy birthday to all the Virgos, and I have loads of Virgo friends. It's an interesting concept, me being a Sag, and I have lots of Virgo friends, as well as, lots of friends from all the other signs, but Virgo is probably one of the more predominant signs throughout my career that if I've worked with somebody or I've attracted somebody into my life, it's usually been a Virgo. So maybe there's been a lesson there for me to learn to be more pedantic and think like a Virgo and not be so emotional about things. So there's always a reason why we attract certain star signs in our lives for a certain period of time. And it is so that we can learn about that energy, or we can learn and understand their idiosyncrasies and hopefully apply them to our day-to-day life. And that's why I'm mentioning it to you, because quite often people come into our lives and all of a sudden there's a run of a particular star sign and you think, what does that mean? Well, it means we need to learn to understand that energy and maybe learn to implicate that in our lives as well, or bring it on board as part of our toolkit. It's teaching us something. It's not just Virgos are the flavour of the month, or Aries or Sag or Leos or whoever it may be, or Pisces. It's just sharing with you that you need to learn a little bit more about this energy. So it's a, pardon me, it's a very, very interesting week as far as astrologically is concerned, because when the sun goes into Virgo, all of a sudden everybody's attention, doesn't matter, regardless of your star sign, starts to think about, oh, maybe I've got to get into the right shape for the next season coming up. Here in Australia, it's summer. I've got to get into my beach body. And for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, it's like, oh, okay, I've got to get ready. I'm going to go ice skating. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I need to be in tip-top condition for that. So maybe I better start that diet I've been thinking about all year. And it's interesting how all of a sudden gym memberships go up under the Virgo time, because all of a sudden everybody's conscious of their physical health and getting ready for the next big season that's about to happen, whether it's summer or winter, that, they're getting ready for the Christmas festive season and you want to look your best. So if you've been feeling that urge, you'll know now that's why. It's because the sun's moved into Virgo and all of a sudden the emphasis is on your physical body and your physical health too. And it's a time where I think we need to, all the 12 signs need to take a little bit more care of their own physical health and understanding when your body is tired, it's telling you it needs a rest. You know, you don't have to go and have a 3 hour sleep, but sometimes just a 5 minute rest, sitting down, clearing your mind off your devices is enough to refresh the mind, body, and soul that you can go again. I think in this very, very busy society, we tend to ignore the warning signs of our bodies telling us, you know, a little breather is a good thing. It enables your energy levels to go again so that you can keep moving. Mercury is still retrograde at the moment. Look, there's a lot of controversy at the moment of whether or not Mercury was actually finished going direct today. It has not. And it doesn't matter which hemisphere you're in, it has not finished yet. It will not finish until about the 30th of the month. So the end of this month is officially the end of the Mercury retrograde that's been in Leo. So if you have any important contracts to sign or anything to do before that due date, please make sure that you read them out aloud, make sure that you're very, very clear, very confident in what you're signing, because this is where mix-ups happen, wrong dates, wrong figures get put on contracts, people don't have their listening ears on, they don't read something thoroughly, and mistakes are made. Now, just because Mercury turns direct on the end of the month, on the 30th, does not mean that automatically everything is okay. I always allow another 3 to 5 days for a little bit of maybe slight confusion there. I tend to be sort of overzealous with sort of allowing a bit of extra time with Mercury. I'd rather do that and make sure that I'm being very pedantic, very much like a Virgo, and really paying attention to detail and making sure I don't miss anything. Now, this can go for communication with loved ones or a boss or somebody that you need to talk to, whether it's a medical practitioner, an insurance company, or whatever. Make sure that they fully understand what you're saying. Because a lot of times people are going, yeah, 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 and they give you an answer that's sort of okay, but it's not quite the whole answer. So make sure you press for the full answer. So that's really important. So that's the whole 12 signs. Now I'm going to focus on where the predominance of the planetary action is this week. And it seems to be back in Gemini again. We've got Jupiter conjunct or holding hands the moon. The moon, we know, only sits in a sign for 2.5 days. The moon is conjunct or holding hands in Mars. Now, when I'm talking about Jupiter and conjunct or holding hands the moon conjunct Mars, I'm talking about Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and the opposite sign of Sagittarius as being the most that will be affected by this. The other 8 signs, it'll just wash over you. It won't be quite as intense, but the energy will still be there. It will still affect you. So Jupiter's the planet of expansion, of luck and opportunity. And Jupiter sort of, you know, can expand our waistlines as well as our wallets. So we need to be careful here that we're not just poking food in our mouths because we're bored, because that's one of the signs of Gemini, is that you can become bored. So you flip from one thing to another. So with Jupiter here, we've got to make sure that we don't flip from one plate of food to another throughout the day and constantly grazing because we're bored. You know, stop yourself and say, hang on a minute, you had breakfast only half an hour ago. Your body doesn't need refueling. Why don't you go and grab a healthy snack rather than a donut? And really be conscious of that, because the last thing you want to do is to be eating and not thinking and putting empty calories in your body, which, you know, is not healthy. But, you know, it's okay for a little treat every now and then, but to make sure that you're putting healthy things in and making sure that you're really aware of what's going on, because sometimes with Jupiter here, and particularly in Gemini, we can just sort of go in and out of things and not really, pardon me, understand what it is that we're doing. We're walking around in a little bit of a daze, and particularly here with the moon here, where the moon is the emotional trigger. Now, the moon can work in a positive way or a negative way. You know, the moon can really uplift our spirits and give us great confidence and make us feel fantastic and all those sort of things. But it can also work on the other way too. If you're feeling a little bit melancholy, a little bit down, a little bit disappointed about something, it sort of, in a sense, gives you a license to, oh, you can just have one more candy bar, or you can just have one more donut. Nobody will know, but you know. And you know that whether or not you're doing it and eating out of an emotional trigger, or are you eating because you're truly hungry, or you really just want a second donut? You know, like, I mean, you know, you are allowed to say, yes, I can have a second donut, but, you know, like, make sure that you understand what the triggers are for food. That seems to be a very big message that's coming through for all the 12 signs. It's not just the 4 that I mentioned. The final part of this is Mars. Now, Mars is the planet of action. Mars is the planet that gets us up off the couch, that gets us motivated. So let's hope that with Jupiter here sort of opening the door, showing us that there's opportunities for expansion, opportunity, we can get many things done. The emotional push is there from the moon saying, come on, let's go. We haven't got much time. And Mars rounds up the tail end of it and says, right, I'll give you the energy to make this all happen. Let's get up. Let's get cracking. Let's, start to do some positive things in our lives. And I think that's a really good thing that, if we start to look at things in a more positive slant, then maybe, just maybe, we'll get a lot of things done between now and the end of the year. Those things that we had on that list at the beginning of the year, that list that we keep shoving in the back of the drawer, we'll do that next week. Well, maybe it's time to get it out and show it some daylight and actually see what we can cross off. You might be surprised at how much you've actually done unconsciously without even realizing it. So we still have Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, and creativity, is still in Pisces, still going retrograde, will be till towards the end of the year. Doesn't mean that creativity has stopped. What it means is it's going to come in waves. And this will affect, mainly the water signs, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, and the opposite sign of Virgo, but it will wash over to the other remaining 8 signs. So it's a time where we need to find some creative solutions in our life. And creativity isn't always about sitting down, writing a song or painting a picture or being clever on your computer with your graphic arts program. It can be being creative in how you tackle life. People need to be creative as they get older and their bodies don't work as well, to find ways to keep up with their day-to-day living. For some people, they need to be creative at how they cook a meal because they can't stand up for very long, or they can't use their hands because they're arthritic. So, you find creative solutions. You find that you buy vegetables that are already pre-prepared that makes, you needing to use your hands less, things like that. So creative solutions don't always mean to be something creative as in creating something that's nice to look at by the eye. It can be finding creative solutions in your life. And that's what I feel Neptune's message is this week, is more about finding creative solutions that will work for you in your day-to-day life, no matter what your star sign is. Now, we also have Saturn, the planet of discipline, is still currently sitting in Pisces. We'll be there till towards the end of the year, going retrograde as well. Now, Saturn is sort of easing off the reins a little bit as far as putting restrictions on us as people. He's sort of saying, okay, we can slow down a little bit. We can sort of, take our time, make sure that we've got all the systems in place that we need, that we can then start to move forward again. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes I think we need to take a little bit of a breather, take a little bit of stock of where things are going, and then sort of look at where we go from here. And I think that's what Saturn's message is. It's okay to sit down occasionally and have a little think tank. It's okay to slow down and read over your notes or look at how much progress you've made to date before we have another surge again of going again. So just make sure that you work with the energies. The energies are all over the place at the moment. I know here in Australia, we've sort of headed into summer really quickly, and it's not even spring here yet, but I'm sure there's a cold snap coming. And I have friends overseas who are saying that, they've headed into their earliest cold snap, that the weather's turned drastically and had hardly any summer. So the weather is sort of all over the place around the world. So just make sure that you work with the energies. And this is partly why Saturn is saying to you, it is okay to have a little breather, to sit down, regurgitate, relook at some of the projects that you've been working on and see whether there's something that maybe you've missed, or, write a list of what's the next steps and, how we expect an expected time frame, those sort of things. Let Saturn work with you instead of against you. And I think that's the really important thing here. That's where we leave the astrology section this week. We're going to talk with Sarah in Harlow Town in Montana in USA. Are you there, Sarah?
I am.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
I am just wondering about my work. I have a big job with a lot of responsibilities, and I just want to know if I'm where I need to be.
Okay. That's a really interesting question, Sarah, and it's a very valid question, because sometimes I think we get ourselves into situations and into jobs that we really, really wanted, and then when we get there and we've been there a while, we start to question, does this really fit me? Is this really what I wanted? Am I in the right place? Is this where I'm destined to be? Is this what my path is? And it's a very logical question. The first thing that they were showing me around that, as you were talking about that, was that I'm not completely convinced. It's almost like the jury's out, and I don't mean to sound very wishy-washy here, but it was like the jury was out to say if there was 12 on one side and 12 on the other side, there's one sitting in the middle that says, I don't know. And I think that's you. You sitting in the middle of saying, I don't know. When we start to feel things like that, Sarah, in my experience, that is usually the indication of, okay, we need to look at this. We don't need to make a decision today, but we need to look at this. So over the next few months as we head towards the end of the year, just keep a little diary, even if it's on your cell phone, of how you feel this week. Did I feel like I had a good week? I achieved everything I wanted to do. Do I like my job? And then next week, do the same thing, that when you go to look back at it, you'll see there whether there's more weeks where you really liked it or there's more weeks where you really didn't like it. And that will start to formulate your decision. I don't know that it's where you're meant to be, but I don't think there's meant to be a change yet. I'm sort of looking around May, June, July next year is when there will be a big decision, a big turning point in your life, and work will be just a part of that. It won't be the whole equation. So is there anything else that you can think that's coming up that might sort of fit into that time frame, Sarah?
In July?
Yeah, May, June, July next year was what they were showing me.
No, not really. I mean, like our fiscal year ends in July, and it's kind of crazy around my office. So I'm thinking about like demoting. Right now, I'm higher up, and I'm thinking about demoting and doing kind of an easier job that I'm really comfortable and good at. And that's where my apprehension is.
Okay. Yeah, but that might be where what I'm seeing coming in. I don't want to see you make that decision today. I think it's too premature. I think we need to go through a process of elimination. If you take a demotion, then obviously you're taking a pay cut. Then you're obviously.
I would be in 6 months, so that would be around. Let's see.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that would be around
Let's just work through this. I mean, okay, you'd take a pay cut in 6 months' time. You'd go back to a job that you feel comfortable in, that you feel that you know that you could easily do, would be less pressure. My concern would be, would in time you become bored with that? Would it become too easy? Would there be no excitement to get out of bed and go to work? That's the problem when you take a demotion, is, yeah, it looks good in the rear vision mirror. Yes, I was happier then. But then if you were happier then, why did you accept a promotion? Do you know what I mean? You were keen to go up the corporate ladder. I mean, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm trying to look at it from every angle before you make a decision.
Right.
I still think you need to give this a little bit of time. I think at the moment, you're overtired. I think you're tired on every level. If you could have a week vacation and do nothing, I think would be good, and let your body just recharge and come back to it, and then see how you feel in 6 weeks' time.
Yeah,
if you still feel this way at the end of the year, then by all means go to your boss and say, in 6 months' time or whatever, I want a demotion. I want to, I can't keep doing this at this pace. I'm getting burnt out. I was more comfortable at this level, and have a conversation then.
Okay.
And then, if he says, yes, okay, great, in the new year you can start in your lower position, but, your pay adjusts at the end of June, fine, so be it. Or he might say, look, I really want you to stay until the end of the physical year. Then you've got an end date, haven't you? You've got something to work towards. I just think to go in there and sort of drop that in their lap at the moment, I feel would be a mistake. I think there needs to be a little bit more thought here. There is big changes coming up. And to me, what was happening next year was not just the decision around the job. There was something else. So are you thinking of renovating or doing something different to where you're living, or maybe moving or something like that? There was something else that was around this as well.
No, I mean, My partner and I, we've been together for 7 years. We've been thinking about getting married, but
Well,
he's
that's
not
a
in
big
any
step,
rush, and I'm not in any rush.
right? Okay, but that might be something that you decide somewhere in the next 6 to 8 months that let's have a very simple ceremony in May, or most people tend to want to get
Right?
married in warmer weather.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of just talked about going to the justice of the peace and just
Yeah,
doing it. So, I mean, maybe.
yeah, but you know what I mean? I mean, that's a major life-changing event. So to me, there was something
Absolutely.
else that was changing in your life at the same time as the changes or the decisions around the work. And that's why I brought up those
Well,
3 months, because that's what they showed me.
July, I had a really, really close friend of mine pass away this July, and it was
Well, then
very
obviously,
significant for me.
yeah, so obviously next July is gonna be tough in that month because it's gonna be the 1-year
Hmm.
anniversary. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Look, I mean, when we lose somebody that's very close to us, I mean, it does make us sort of stop and think and look at our lives and say, "What can I change? What can I improve?" It all of a sudden makes us
Hmm.
realize that we're not here forever. So that might have been the
Yeah.
trigger for starting to look at this in a different way and sort of saying, "I'm really not happy with this job." Yes, the money's
Yeah.
nice, but I don't need all the stress and headaches and everything else. And if that's the
Yeah.
case, that's fine. But I just want you to take a little tiny bit more time, maybe go and have a conversation with your boss, but not today. I want to see you leave it for at least a month. Let the Mercury retrograde completely get out of the road. Your thinking might change. And it may not either. It
Okay.
might become very strong and very clear that you know precisely that's what you need to do. But I really would suggest if you can have a week off and just put your feet up on the couch and watch some strange movies on Netflix or something like that and lose yourself in them and not think about anything, I think that would be the best remedy at the moment. And then your thinking will become really super clear.
Awesome. Yep. I can
Okay.
definitely do
Right.
that.
Okay, Sarah. Well, it's been lovely to talk to you. That's where I've got to leave it now, sweetie. Keep us posted. So we're going to talk to Danielle in Davenport in Iowa in the USA. Are you there, Danielle?
Yes, I am.
What's your question, sweetie? How can I help you?
Um, I honestly, um, can you connect with people that have passed?
If they choose to come through in the very limited time that we've got, yes, I can, but I can't guarantee. We don't have a direct dial telephone, sweetie. Usually, most of the time, people want a question answered that isn't necessarily a question for spirit. It's quite often usually
And
something
is it
about their life.
like any type of question really?
It can be any question that's bothering you. Usually, when people phone into the show, they've got something on their mind. That's why I ask, "What's your question?"
Oh, so, I do have epilepsy, and recently
No.
I was told I have to have a pretty invasive brain surgery,
Oh.
and I can't decide if I should or not.
Mhm.
And it's like I've kind of been wondering if it's going to be for the best or not.
Okay. All right. First and foremost, medical questions around the world, we have restrictions on depending on the location. So, just as a blanket thing, I always say to people, I can't answer a medical question, but I can look at it on an energetic level. I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice, but I can look into your soul on an energetic level and give you what I get there. And the first thing that I'm picking up on a soul level as you were talking about that is you need a second opinion. There needs to be somebody
Yeah.
else that you need to go and talk to and go away and then think about it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. On an energetic level, I feel it's probably something that's going to be very necessary. But I think there's a little bit of breathing time here that we can, analyze, look at, ask questions, understand the whole procedure, understand what the expected outcomes is. What are the risk factors? All these things need to be taken into consideration. And I can certainly
Yeah.
understand your fear of going into something like this, which is, probably not something they do every minute of every day. It's something that,
Yeah.
would require a very high level of skill. Any surgery is a risk. So I understand that. But on an energetic level, they were showing me once this is done and the healing starts to work and you come out the other side, it's sort of like everything goes to a gallop. At the moment, everything's on this, very slow. I can barely put one foot in front of the other, is how they're showing me on an energy level. And they're showing me
Okay.
after the operation, and you come out the other side and you come home from hospital, you go from this very slow, steady walk to almost galloping very quickly. So to me, that's a good sign that it's a good procedure, that it's the right thing for you, that it's going to help you in whatever way that they've predicted, and probably even better outcome than what they've predicted. But again, it's something that you've got to go into feeling very comfortable that you're informed with every piece of information that you can. And I'm one of these people, I'm not skeptical, but I always think when we've got to go and face surgery, we need at least two opinions, because everybody
Yeah.
sees things slightly differently, and everybody looks at your condition, your history, maybe through a different lens. And then that way, if two
Yeah.
people are telling you pretty similar sort of outcomes and pretty similar advice, then you go away and you think about it and you sit with it, you talk it over with family and friends, and then you make your decision. And then, I think a lot of
Yeah.
times operations are more successful if we can go in to the hospital in a positive frame of mind that this is right. It actually speeds things up. It speeds up the healing. But if we go in there and we've got all these questions and we're upset and we're not sure and we're confused, and it actually works in reverse. So that's why I want to see you when the time comes, if it's right for you, that we do it in a way that you go in the best informed way that you can, that you're positive, you're happy to be there, and you're expecting an amazing result. And that's what I can see for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where I've got to leave it, Danielle. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show, but I wish you well, and I know you'll make the right decision as far as your health is concerned. It's really interesting when we have people like Danielle, are facing a major decision like that around their health. And, from time to time, we all face major decisions that we don't know what to do. And sometimes I think it is really important to get a second or third or even fourth opinion on something, particularly connected with your health. If you're not comfortable with what you've been shared, the information that's been shared with you, continue to go until you get to feel comfortable. You mightn't get any different answer, but if you get told it often enough, then, well, this is the expected outcome. For many of us, we have lots of things in our lives that we need to make decisions on. And it's a bit of a tricky time. And as I said, Mercury retrograde, another 2 or 3 days. So just be patient. Then allow about another 4 or 5 days after that for Mercury to sort of get back in the groove of being normal, so that our thinking will be clear and we won't be sort of so much on the edge of our seat wondering whether or not we're making the right decisions. This week I want to leave you with an old song, but it's a beautiful old song. And it's something, I'm showing my age here. This is back in this, well, I'm not going to say. But anyway, it's Boss Skaggs, and what can I say? So until next week, what can I say? Enjoy Boss Skaggs. Bye for now.